Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with my friend, Jana Rieger. Jana was born in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. She is from a family of 6 siblings, and she's blessed with watching her 17 nieces and nephews grow up, find their partners in life, and have their own children too. That makes her a great auntie. So cute. Jana's loved ones are the friends in her life who have become her family. Besides her loved ones, Jana is most passionate about growing her very cool company, True Angle. Her adult journey has been an incredible weaving of one experience into the next, with creativity being in the center of them all, and you will see that through this interview. Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. You will find her full bio attached. Jana, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Kat. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I'm very much looking forward to this. Tell us the greatest challenge that you've had in the last several months.
The greatest challenge. The word challenge, it's an interesting one. I think sometimes there's positive connotations, negative connotations. So I'd like to go down the positive route and say that the challenges that I've had over the past 3 months have been really positive ones. And so they relate mostly to the company that I'm growing, which is called True Angle. And we're a health tech company. We've developed a digital remote solution for people who have swallowing disorders because of conditions like cancer or stroke or Parkinson's. And the medical term for that is dysphagia. So we have this solution that we've tested that we know it works, and we did a soft launch in September. So everything prior to that and up to now has been about that launch. And being an entrepreneur now, coming from an academic background and coming into this world, which I love, some of these challenges are really great ones to have. So for example, learning what it takes to get a product across the border, learning what it takes to rev up your sales and marketing engine, having a really high functioning team who want everything to be perfect, and figuring out how to keep everyone sane in that process and saying, just do it. So I'd say that over the past 3 months, that has been really a lovely challenge to have, and it gets me up in the morning and makes me happy every day. On the other hand, as we all know, there's this thing in our world that has turned it upside down. I suppose on that side of things, the biggest challenge for me is that our team is working remotely. We haven't had the same ability to come together in a room and just kind of let those ideas fly and happen. But we've done a great job of handling things remotely by being on platforms like this. So that's what I would say about challenge in the past 3 months.
Wow. But overall, really positive generally. It just sounds like you're having to navigate a lot, but sounds really good.
For sure. It's been really positive.
I'm glad, Jana. Wonderful. And your 3 things that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Can you give me a heads up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Your top 3 things. It's whatever you think is important for us to hear. It could be more about True Angle. It could be how you see the world today and through your lens of obviously coming from academia and now an entrepreneur. Maybe there's something about that. It's whatever your top 3 things are.
Okay. Sounds great. I think first on the list would be around what we tell ourselves we can do and not do. And for me, this has been a really important thing in life. So I started as an academic, and even thinking about at one point doing a PhD, it was one of those moments in life where it was like, can I really do that? And not having role models around who had done a PhD, it was this unknown world that I was stepping into, except for the profs that I had known in my career. So as I went along in that pathway, one of the next things that came up about a decade later, after I'd established that career, was having this real yearning to write creatively. And once again, I was in a situation where I thought, I don't have an MFA. I've not been trained as a writer. but I had this real desire to do it. And I thought, do I have any right to write? And so what I did, because it just was coming, and I had this character in my head, I just started writing. And from there, what I did was I reached out to networks. I found out what were the networks of writers in the city, how could I get involved, and how could I figure out what I needed to do if this was a real passion of mine. And that took me on an 8-year journey of on the side of being having that as my passion, and writing a novel that and publishing it was what resulted from that. And what was interesting was that really set me up for where I am right now, and this desire that I've had since I was a kid to be an entrepreneur. I was always looking for ways to create new things, and my father was a businessman in the city, and so that always appealed to me. And when this opportunity came up to marry what I had been doing in academia and be an entrepreneur, it was really exciting for me, but also honestly really terrifying, because again, I didn't know anything about it. And but I think looking back, those other two situations, going into academia and writing a book, set me up for, you know what, you can do this. You need to find the right networks. You need to find mentors. And that was critical in all those other situations as well. So bringing this long topic back to the point is that I think it's really important for people to realize that there are many things you can do in life. I think a lot of times we set ourselves into these boxes of beliefs, and maybe don't step out to do some of these things that if we tried, we'd really be great at. So that's the first thing. And that kind of brings me into the second thing, where I want to bring it around to the female entrepreneur, because I think that's a really hot topic right now. You hear lots about it. You hear lots about females investing, creating new funds to invest in other companies. And I think it's really wonderful that females are stepping out into this role. When I reflected on it and thought about, okay, so is it a male-female thing? What's happening here? And why are we in this situation that, where there's this some inequality when it comes to female entrepreneurs? And by that, I mean the number of them who are out there doing this stuff, and the number of females at the board table. And I can remember when I went to the first international conference when I was just a newly a fledgling academic, essentially, because of the area that I was practicing in, which was around head and neck cancer, and a very heavy surgically focused and dentally focused group. When I got up in front of the crowd, and there's probably about 500 people in the room, it was mostly men. And I thought, oh my gosh, like there's a handful of women in this crowd. And so I've kind of always been in those situations, and I've never, I don't think I've ever let it stop me from doing what I wanted to do, and becoming and creating things within those groups. So when I thought about it with respect to entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs, what I think it comes down to is having the right role models for young females who are out there, and maybe they have some great ideas, but they just really haven't seen many other females in these roles. And so I think it's breaking those belief systems that young women might have, and also having the right role models. So I think that's really important. And I think hopefully going forward that it will just pick up this natural speed and momentum now, without necessarily making it a male-female thing. And then number 3, let's see, I think that would be the most important thing is resilience. And I think resilience is easy when you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And I think in my bio, I had put a quote from Joseph Campbell, which was to follow your bliss, or maybe I took it out, but I did have it in there originally. And I think that when you look at some of his thoughts, Joseph Campbell's thoughts about what makes us tick as humans and what brings real satisfaction to our lives, he talks about when you're on the beam and when you are going along that track that is right for you and you're following that thing that really inspires you, life is just going to roll right ahead. And if you're feeling some friction in there, you've probably fallen off the side somehow. So I think it's really important to be on the beam, because I think then that gives you the energy for resilience. And so, yeah, starting this company, believe me, there have been moments, there's up and down and all over the place. But that resilience and the passion that I feel for the product that we have and what it's going to do for people gets me out of bed every morning and just makes me really happy to come to my desk, even though we're all quarantined in our homes now, but just to get to my desk and get stuff done.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very proud of you, Jana. Way to go.
Well,
You
thanks.
you have major resilience, by the way. Awesome. And what about in closing, a legacy, a good news or opportunity that you see on the horizon? Anything in that category?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about legacy as well. I think when people initially think about a legacy, you think about something that you're leaving behind. And whether that's a building, a book, a program, whatever it might be. I like to think of legacy as something that you set up for the future. So again, like I said, with being a role model for for other people, what you're doing in your everyday life, how that sets us up for what's coming next. I think those are the important legacy pieces. And in a way, when you think about COVID, and as terrible as it is, it too will have a legacy that, if we look at it from a positive perspective, is going to be setting us on a new path. And this whole concept of creative destruction. So True Angle was part of the Creative Destruction Lab. And when I first heard that name, I thought, oh, isn't that an interesting name, Creative Destruction? But when you look back into history and understand what is creative destruction, it is the essentially the destroying of something that brings forward this really amazing creative thing. And in some ways, COVID has done that. Like when I look at our field in healthcare, man, it has fast forwarded us by a decade in the matter of a couple months when we think about things like telehealth and big data and where the focus is being put now on some of those things. So I think that's legacy is again what you set up for the future. And I think in some weird way, even in this terrible situation of COVID, it has done some of that for us through this creative destruction. So
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Jana. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
And
My
thank you so
pleasure.
much for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Kat, for having me.
Of course. Keep up the good work, Jana.
Thanks.
Everyone, that was Jana Rieger. Check out True Angle and all the good work that she's doing. Read her full bio. You'll be very impressed. And thanks so much for joining us on Cat's Track, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.